Good evening. It is 8:30. It's time for it's that time again, story time with Gina, and thank you for joining in. This is it's kind of interesting. It really is. EMP attacks, and hello Applebrooks, honey. We've heard about EMPs. We have. Why would an EMP attack happen? Why in America? Really, why in any country would an EMP attack happen? Well, there's a very simple reason why an EMP attack could occur in the United States. A very simple reason. If our enemies ever wanted to deal a truly devastating blow to the country, an EMP attack would be the way to do it. That's how one would happen. They detonate a device so far up in the air, and it spans out across the area like a certain radius. And then if you're driving down the highway in your car, along with other people in their cars, and you just happen to be in the vicinity of an EMP detonation up there, and your car stops all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden you see everybody else's car stop, and you look at your cell phone and think, my cell phone's not working, it's dead. Well, chances are that it's dead because of an EMP attack. Then you better have a plan. You better be able to get out of your car, and you better have a bug out bag, and you better get to walking. You better get to a place of safety, because you don't want to be staying there in the midst of panic. You don't, you all. So if you're ever driving down the road and your car stops and you think, oh no, my car died on me, and you're looking around and there's cars that are crashing into one another, something's caused it. And you try to use a cell phone and it's not working, something's caused it, and it's not coming back on. So you better get out of the car, get you some good walking shoes, and get out, get to walking. Get to a place of safety. So if you're just tuning in, let me come over here and find this live video on this channel. Let's come look over here. See if I can find myself. We got 126 people watching, and it is a very real possibility. I know the military's been preparing for an EMP attack for a very, very long time. So have other militaries of the world. They have been preparing for one. Used to follow up on that a long time ago. They say, you might want to have a Faraday cage. Well, it won't do you no good. It won't. If the towers are... They can even detonate something up there and knock out some satellites also that would provide access to whatever. They can do a lot of things. Your electricity goes out. You don't got electricity to your home. It could shut down power plants if they're not battle hardened. It can shut down your ventilators. You got no CPAP. You ain't gonna be having no CPAP to breathe at night. You won't have a stove to cook on, a refrigerator. Water treatment facilities, they need electricity also. You may not have clean water because they won't be able to treat the water, and their backup will only last for so long. The grocery stores will probably get ransacked when people realize what's happened. How are they going to get to a grocery store? They better have a bicycle or something. And if you're in the grocery store and the doors are shut and you can't get out, it could have widespread impact. It really could. Let's come over to this article and read it. Gina, why are you talking about that? So sometimes I like to look at stuff like this. I really do. And it's all right. It really is all right. Let's come on over and welcome everyone. Yes, we got some mass chaos going on. There will be mass chaos, so you better be in the survival mode, and you better keep your head on straight, because you're going to make a stressful situation already even more stressful. It's got to have the, let me just tell you what you got to have. You got to have the peace within. You got to have that love within. You want to just be You gotta remain calm, if that is possible. You all, I'm finding it very difficult to say that with a straight face because I would not remain too calm. But I think I would go into survival mode. But there's gonna be some people. They're gonna be out of control, and they're gonna try to take what you got. If they see you with a bicycle and they realize what's happening and they want that bicycle, they're going to come after you. And you know, they got something that doesn't require electricity that they could use as a weapon, you all. There's all kinds of things that you would never believe, some of the things people would do. And that's where it gets really, really dangerous. They'll do anything to survive. Anything. So, it's really not a funny situation. It's a really scary situation. Yeah, but you would really want to try to maintain the balance on the inside of you so you can think straight. Okay, now we're going to watch it. That's right. What would happen during an EMP attack in the United States? They did. Now, when I was working, this is back in probably 2008, maybe 2010, they were worried about North Korea detonating their EMP over the United States, because you know you can retrofit a satellite with a payload on it and cause it to detonate. Let's look at this. Satellites around the United States. They actually got something. Satellites in orbit right now around the Earth. Live. You can go to a site. We're going to go to it. Eye on the Earth, NASA skies. They're loading. Oh no, we're looking at this other thing. Gina, honey, you're looking at something totally different. Okay, I am. I'm looking at the visible Earth. That's not the one I wanted, but I will bookmark this. That way we can have that one. I'll put it in a little sticky note if it will hold it. It's a good bookmark to have, you all. If you want to look at NASA stuff, let me put this on here in the live stream if you like to go look at stuff like that. But even though this is not an astronomy video right here, but it's like an EMP, go look at this right here. You get the thing of NASA floating around that Earth. Okay, eyes on the Earth. Now you got a visible Earth, but orbit real tracking. So here's another one. Who is this? Right here. I don't know who this is. This is somebody else. Let's find the other one. They have it's real live sky.org. I can't remember which one it was. They've got some GPSs up in the sky. 43 spacecraft. Okay, if you're a satellite, you are considered a spacecraft in the sky. Let me put this over here in the live stream since we're using it. Right there. And it's from Indianapolis. This one right here came from Indianapolis. They don't know the distance. It's passing over Indianapolis. So you can click on these. Hubble. Oh, look, a Hubble Space Telescope. Isn't that neat? Right there is Hubble. Right down there. How cute. A Navistar 75. This is a Tanahi. Another Navistar. There's a light cube. I don't know who it is, but you can do that. You can find all kinds of stuff right here. Lola, whatever. You can look at this one. Live satellite. No, I'm not going to do that. Okay, I'm done looking at it. I'm going to read this right here. Okay, Gina, honey, you get back to the story. I'm going to get back to the story time with Gina and quit looking at those satellites. But yeah, you can retrofit a satellite with a payload. And they thought North Korea would do it. So I would remember I was watching it. I had it pulled up on my phone. I was watching it as it was going over the United States. And I forget how high up in the atmosphere it had to be before it did it. And they're not the only one. You can fly over any country above a certain level. It's free space up there. It really is. Okay. What would happen if a nuclear weapon were detonated by a hostile country or a terrorist organization in the upper atmosphere of the United States? There's a very simple answer to this question. The power grid would most likely go down, either over a large area or potentially over most, if not all, of the United States. Stores, online banking, hospitals, social services, the internet, restaurants would become shut down immediately. The supply trucks would stop moving. There would be no more running water. Cars would stop working and crash into one another on highways, while planes would fall from the sky. Looters and mobs would take to the streets, resulting in mass rioting and devastation across all cities. Gina, honey, did you say devastation? Yes, devastation. Martial law would be declared. Martial law, absolutely, it will be declared, and law enforcement units will be moved in to seize control, and in an instant, the world has been thrown back to the 1800s, and your city will now resemble a war zone. You won't be traveling nowhere. Nowhere. The harrowing scenario described to you above is not meant to scare you. It's meant to explain what you can realistically see happen as a result of an electromagnetic pulse EMP attack. EMP attacks have long been the subject of fascination in disaster preparation websites and works of post-apocalyptic fiction like. Nonetheless, you would be unwise to treat the possibility of an EMP hitting the United States in the future as being fantasy. It's not a fantasy, you all. They got the weapons to do it. They've did their drills. In this article, we will cover what an EMP attack would look like in the United States and how likely it is to happen and what you can do to prepare for it. Y'all, we can see that. We got it. Thank you for those hearts flying up that screen. And look at like atomic bomb. It's kind of sort of like it. Yeah. There is a very simple reason. Why would it happen? Well, if our enemies ever wanted to deal a truly devastating blow to the country, an EMP attack would be the way to do it. An EMP device either detonated over a specific city, such as Los Angeles or New York. It could be detonated in the center of the United States. Alternately, multiple EMPs could be detonated at once if our enemies truly wanted to deliver the maximum amount of damage. Back in the days of the Cold War, the main man-made disaster that everyone feared was the threat of a nuclear war between the United States and Russia. But the reason why nuclear war never happened during those decades was because of very real potential for a mutually assured destruction, meaning both the U.S. and Russia would be obliterated by each other had just one of them acted first. With an EMP, the threat of a mutually assured destruction would not exist. If our enemies succeeded in detonating a nuclear device high enough into the atmosphere, not only would it result in a complete and utter catastrophe, but the United States would be unable to respond as well. That would be a first strike. In short, an EMP attack would happen if the enemies of the United States wanted to devastate this country for some reason. I can't think of a single reason why they would want to do that. Gina, can you say that with a straight face? No, I can't. If they wanted to devastate the country as fast as they could without turning to nuclear war. How likely is it to happen? Honestly, no one knows. It's not even certain if it will happen or that it won't. Even though Russia, Iran, North Korea, and China have all invested in EMP technology, not counting any big terrorist organizations that could have access to the technology as well. What is certain, however, that if it does happen, it will be one of the very worst disasters that could ever happen to the country. And that's what we're going to talk about next. If you're just tuning in, it's an EMP. I don't think I really covered that too much in depth at all on this channel. Might have mentioned it a time or two, maybe just a tad bit. But I used to be concerned about it years ago, big time. What would it be? What would the effects be? The threat of an EMP attack upon America has technically existed for as long as nuclear weapons have existed, but at least since the late 1990s and early 2000s, EMPs in particular have been viewed as a major threat by the United States government. For example, in 2004, the Commission to Assess the Threat to the United States from an Electromagnetic Pulse Attack concluded that the damage from an EMP attack to the nation would be, in their own words, sufficient to be catastrophic. We've already covered what an EMP attack would look like in the introduction, so there's no need to go back into what it would look like to you now. What we can go into now, however, is what the cost of such an attack would be to the United States. Many experts conclude that it would take up to a full decade, if not longer, to bring the power grid full back up online, assuming that the attack were to affect the whole country. Now, this is long-term preparedness guide and worksheets. Let me stick this in the comment section so you have a thing. You won't have to worry. Gina, honey, where did it come from? Came from right here. Right there's the link. I just stuck it in there. You need a solid long-term preparedness plan. You need to learn what to do in a long-term emergency hit. Create your own plan with easy-to-follow worksheets and protect your family and your loved ones. If I were to click that, let me see what this would be. The comprehensive guide. Where's the... Oh, here's some of the things. Let's see, this comprehensive guide. Let's see. That helps you weather any long-term disasters to successfully prepare and survive the crisis. Even though it hasn't happened, you got to be prepared. You got to read this comprehensive guide, you all. It will cover 14 areas such as water, food, self-defense, hygiene, first aid, and more. So you can see what they got right here. They got a compass. They got, you got a camera, but that's 35 millimeter. You got a backpack, water bottle. You got a multi-tool. You got it. 15 worksheets. Long-term nutrition. You got food storage, food production, but if it's radiation, if it's a nuclear fallout, just forget it. Clothing and accessories, shelter, heating, lighting, waste management. All of it. Let me see what happens if you click into it. Long term. Oh, no, you got to buy it. So we ain't going to buy it. We're just going to read about it because we can't be buying it online. You, if you're just tuning in, why would we have an EMP? Well, it's quite evident, really, to any country. If you've got an enemy, you're going to have one, maybe, quite possibly. So during that time, it would cost the United States several trillions dollars a year in repair cost, and it also widely estimated that up to 90% of the American population could die in that decade from murder. This is terrible. Murder, starvation, dehydration, disease, and suicide, with the majority being killed in the opening months. Oh my gosh, you all, that sounds horrific. It really is very catastrophic. 90% of the population could die in that decade, the majority being killed in the opening months. People go around killing each other. You be starving to death. You be dehydrated. You get disease. You get suicide. Majority with, yeah. Let that sink in for a minute, they say. And what's even more alarming is how underprepared the United States is for an EMP attack. In its same 2004 report, the EMP Commission recommended a massive overhaul of American independent infrastructure in order to become more prepared for an EMP attack. And do you know what has happened in the years since then? Absolutely nothing. The simple fact of the matter is that American infrastructure is incredibly vulnerable and unprotected to an EMP attack. So, while Congress has attempted to pass legislation to beef up the defenses of the American infrastructure, if an EMP attack was to be detonated high in the North American atmosphere today. So that's, you see that right there. So let me see, what about the infrastructure? I know here that we used to have railroad tracks all over the place. Well, they've taken up the tracks. They say they're going to make them walking paths. So there goes the railroad to deliver supplies and things like that. You will not be getting your supplies if you live in the country or stuff. No, because they took the railroad tracks out. No, nothing's coming to you. Nothing. It's kind of weird. It is. There's one mode of traffic gone. What can you do to prepare for an EMP attack? Well, you may understandably feel helpless in the face of an EMP attack. The truth is, there is much you can do to prepare for one. First and foremost, you need to build up a healthy stockpile of supplies, including food, water, and medicine, to name a few. There are bulk packs of survival food that you can buy online, including a 1 or more year supply, and you can collect water in several 55-gallon drums. Security will also be paramount importance to you. Do not cut corners. Invest in one of the best survival rifles that money can buy so that you're prepared for self-defense and hunting when the happens, when the thing hits the fan. Stock up on at least 1,000 rounds of ammunition per caliber, if not more. It would be a wise maneuver to you. I'd up that to 10,000 or more. But I'm a bit paranoid, you are. We are reading one person's thing about what would happen during a survival attack. You will get attacked if you're trying to survive during an EMP attack. And you're going to have a hard time finding that much ammunition. You really are, because they're closing down the ammunition stuff and suppliers are being bought up by the big people. But we're talking about an EMP. That being said, no matter how many supplies you stockpile, remember that things may not turn back to normal for as long as 10 years. This is why you're going to have to do 2 other things. You're going to have to create a self-sustaining source of food, such as a garden, and learn how to barter with other people. You're also going to need to work with your neighbors to forge alliances, exchange resources, and keep each other safe from the outside threats. Well, Gina, honey, you know what? I don't need to do nothing. I'm gonna make it alone. I'm gonna get my place, and nobody's coming on here, and I'm gonna guard it. You know what? You're one person, or you're 2 person. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. There is strength in numbers. It's only going to take, at the most, 1 to 2.5 days, you say the city farthest away, for the people from the cities to start coming into the countrysides to where you're at, where you're holed up. You're going to be like that movie. It was a really apocalyptic movie, and I forget what it was. But only a few people survived an apocalyptic thing, and when the people made it to the country and they found them, well, they chained them up in the basement, and then they turned cannibalistic. Yeah. And they didn't care. They, like a group of around 4 people. I don't know what the name, I think it was called The Road. I don't know what it was, but I'll never watch it again. I don't even know if I finished watching it, but it's going to bring out the worst in people. It really will. You think you see some craziest now. No, you ain't seen nothing when that happens. Nothing. And they're going to look at you and think, oh, well, there's just 1 person there. There's just 2 people, and you got a crowd of around 15 people who have band together. They're going to take what you got. You may go down fighting, because they might, yeah, it could get really ugly, and it really could get ugly. Okay. You're going to forge alliances. Otherwise, as supplies dry up and people turn desperate, your neighbors could easily turn on each other, and you'll become even more unsafe than you were before. Obviously, this is not an in-depth analysis of what you need to do to prepare for an EMP attack, but at the very least, it should give you an idea of the steps that you would need to take to prepare for one. So there's a conclusion right here. The purpose of this article has been to educate you on what an EMP attack would look like, why it would happen, and what it would cost the United States. And if you take anything else away from this, it is that if you haven't started preparing yet, you need to prepare, is what they have said. Let me bring this back, and you can see that there are other articles on EMP, how to survive a catastrophic EMP attack. Are you ready? Are you ready? Look, EMP survive. You can survive when you just got to get you a plan. 2023, what is this right here? Goka Capital. So you wanted to know 13 things you should know. It's a burst of electromagnetic energy. If you think you're feeling like, the things coming from the sun, they're messing with your body, making you lightheaded and stuff like this, well, this is going to fry your electronics. It is. It's not going to work. It can either occur naturally or be generated deliberately by using nuclear weapons. It's up for debate how much a threat of EMP poses. Some may argue that these types of weapons could use widespread disruption to electricity-dependent societies, and others aren't worried about it. They're not. Oh, it can occur naturally. You know what? If you had like a Carrington event from the sun, that would kind of be like an EMP. Let's look up a Carrington event. It's like a, let's see, and EMP. Ta-da! A perfect solar superstorm. And the sun is getting a little excited lately. It really is getting excited. On the morning of September the 1st of 1859, amateur astronomer Richard Carrington ascended into the private observatory attached to his his country estate in England. Let's look at this. Oh, it's pretty. So let's look at this. Oh, isn't this interesting? They have updated this. Let's put this on here, history.com. That's a nice picture of the sun. It really is really cute. I mean, even though it looked like a big ball of fire, it's kind of nice. It is. Let's look at that. Now, this would be the sun. Isn't it pretty? Nice graphics and stuff like that, even though it's like, whatever. On the morning of September the 1st of 1859, amateur astronomer Richard Carrington ascended into the private observatory attached to his country's estate outside of London, and after cranking open the dome shutter to reveal the clear blue sky, he pointed his brass telescope toward the sun and began to sketch a cluster of enormous dark spots that freckled its surface. Suddenly, Carrington spotted what he described as two patches of intensely bright and white light erupting from the sunspots. 5 minutes later, the fireballs vanished, but within hours their impact would be felt across the globe. That night, telegraph communications around the world began to fail. There were reports of sparks showering from telegraph machines, shocking operators and setting papers ablaze. All over the planet, colorful auroras illuminated the nighttime skies, glowing so brightly that the birds began to chirp and the laborers started their daily chores, believing the sun had began rising. Some thought the end of the world was at hand, but Carrington's naked eye had spotted the true cause for the bizarre happenings. It was a massive solar flare with the energy of 10 billion atomic bombs. The flare spewed electrified gas and subatomic particles toward the Earth, and resulting in a geomagnetic storm dubbed the Carrington event. It was the largest one on record to have struck the planet. The bright flare and dark lines compared to today's information superhighway, the telegraph system in 1859 may have been a mere dirt road, But the Victorian internet was also a critical means of transmitting news, sending private messages, engaging in commerce. The telegraph reporters in the United States had observed local interruptions due to the thunderstorms and the northern lights before, but they never experienced a global disturbance like the 1-2 punch they received in the waning days of summer of 1859. Many telegraph lines across North America were rendered inoperable on the night of August the 28th as the first of 2 successive solar storms struck. E.W. Colgan, a telegraph manager in Pittsburgh, reported that the resulting currents flowing through the wires were so powerful that platinum contacts were in danger of melting and streams of fire were pouring forth from the circuits. In Washington, D.C., telegraph operator Frederick W. Royce was severely shocked as his forehead grazed a ground wire. According to a witness, an arc of fire jumped from Royce's head to the telegraphic equipment. Some telegraph stations that used chemicals to mark the sheets reported the powerful surges caused the telegraph paper to combust. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about an EMP. We spoke about the one that would come from a device being detonated over the United States via a satellite payload. Now we're talking about like a Carrington event that would cause something like that to happen. More or less, it would have similar effect. On the morning of September the 2nd, the magnetic mayhem resulting from the second storm created even more chaos for the telegraph operators. When American Telegraph Company employees arrived at their Boston office at 8 a.m., they discovered it was impossible to transmit or receive dispatches. The atmosphere was so charged. It's probably so charged with plasma. You know those plasma videos we do see with all that electricity and stuff in the air make really beautiful plasma beings and stuff like that. Well, this is supercharged right here. That the operators made an incredible discovery. They could unplug their batteries and still transmit messages to Portland, Maine at 30 to 90 second intervals using only the auroral current. Messages still couldn't be sent as seamlessly as under normal conditions, but it was a useful workaround. By 10 a.m., the magnetic disturbance abated enough that the stations reconnected their batteries, but transmissions were still affected for the rest of the morning. The sky was on fire. When telegraphs did come back online, many were filled with vivid accounts of the celestial light show that had been witnessed the night before. Newspapers from France to Australia featured glowing descriptions of brilliant auroras that had turned night into day. One eyewitness account from a woman on Sullivan's Island in South Carolina ran in the Charleston Mercury. The eastern sky appeared of a blood-red color. It seemed the brightest exactly in the east, as though the full moon, or rather the sun, were about to rise. It extended almost to the zenith. The whole island was illuminated. The sea reflected the phenomenon, and no one could look at it without thinking of a passage in the Bible which says the sea was turned to blood. The shells on the beach reflecting the light resembled coals of fire. The sky was so crimson that many saw it believed that neighboring locals were on fire. Americans in the South were particularly startled by the northern lights, which migrated so close to the equator that they were seen in Cuba and Jamaica. Elsewhere, however, there appeared to be a genuine confusion. In Abbeville, South Carolina, masons awoke and began to lay their bricks at their job site until they realized the hour and they returned to bed. In Bealton, Virginia, larks were stirred from their sleep at 1 a.m. and began to warble. Unfortunately for them, a conductor on the Orange of Alexander Railroad was also awake and shot 3 of them dead. In the cities across America, people stood in the streets and they gazed up at the heavenly pyrotechnics. In Boston, some even caught up on their reading, taking advantage of the celestial fire to pursue the local newspapers. Ice core samples have determined that the Carrington event was twice as big as any other solar storm in the last 500 years. What would be the impact of a similar storm today? According to a 2008 report from the National Academy of Sciences, it could cause extensive social and economic disruptions. due to its impact on our power grids, satellite communications, and GPS systems. The potential tag would be $1 trillion to $2 trillion. So this is two types of things that would have like an EMP effect. You have the sun. I think we mentioned something about this a few days ago too, with the Carrington event. And then we actually had an actual thing. Why would we have an EMP attack? It would be detonated over the United States, and it could be in a local area. It could be in the center of the United States. It could be anywhere. It could be multiple ones. It could. And it's something to be prepared for. It really is, you all. It's nothing to laugh about. It's nothing to, even with the sun doing that, you could be turned back to the 1800s also, and people would probably do the same thing. They probably would. When it gets right down to it, if it's going to be their life or yours, they're probably going to come after you to survive, and they'll take what they want. So you should probably get prepared, really. And some people go way overboard. Some people think, oh, it'd never happen. Well, there's lots of things that people think would never happen that have happened. Would you ever expected the world to be in the condition that it is now? If somebody would have told you 10 years ago, hey, there's a prophecy that in around the years, blah, 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 there was going to be something happen and all this stuff would go down, you wouldn't believe it. No, you think, nah, it's not going to happen. Well, this is a very real possibility. Let me just one more thing, you all. Just one more thing. Let me just do it. So you can see like this. You can have a vehicle EMP arrestor, military grade protection, U.S. Air Force is guarding against electromagnetic pulse attacks. The base in Texas has taken the first steps to guard against it. Why would they do it? It could even come from the sun, you all. But look at this. 2021, should we worry? They're guarding against it. It could come from anything. Look at that. It looks like that looks like a big old UFO underneath here. It does. I wonder if they made this up. Look like a UFO right here. Boom and boom. You think that's real? Gina, no, it's not. One way to create an EMP is to set off a nuclear bomb, a billowing white mushroom cloud during the Operation Ivy, the first test of a hydrogen bomb at Inawak Atoll in the Marshall Islands. They took the first steps, San Antonio and Lackland, Texas. They issued a request for bids to carry out a survey of a facility called the Petroleum Oil Lubrication Complex to identify the equipment that could be vulnerable to an EMP. So, yeah, you all, they got it. It's not a joke. It isn't. But this is it's good. It's short and to the point. Two different types you could expect. It could be local. It could come from a device in the air. It could come from the sun. It could fry us all. And some preparation is better than none. It is. Something's better than nothing. So I'm going to go, and thank you all for being on here. Thank you, moderators. Thank you all for your comments. Thank you to everyone who has joined. And with that being said, hello, wherever you are in any part of the world. Hello. From my heart to yours, love you. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, you all. And thank you so much for taking time to listen. And I hope maybe something I said might spur you to prepare. Love you.